National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union has declared a dispute after government's offer of a 3% increase. It's warning government to make a better offer to avoid disruptions to service delivery. Let's speak now to the union's Mike Shingange, president of Nehawu, who talks to us from Benoni this morning. Good morning to you, sir. And let's start with the 3% wage offer. Why is that not good enough for Nehawu members when SATU members are saying we're okay?
Good morning, Colin. Good morning to your viewers. Of course, the 3% is not good enough for our members and a whole lot of public servants. If you look at where the inflation is and you look what the 3% pensionable or baseline means in as far as the notch progression of the workers is concerned, including the pensions of workers that have been on stagnation for the past 3 years. Because this is not a negotiations that is taking place in a vacuum. It's taking place when we are on our 3rd year without a real salary increase that is pensionable. And when the inflation and everything else that the workers have to pay, particularly through the pay as you earn, for instance, your taxes, your housing bonds, your medical aids, all of them are increasing at an inflation rate, but only the salary or the income of workers is not increasing at an inflation rate.
If 3%, Mr. Shingange, is not good enough, where are you ranging you might settle if indeed there is an increase to the wage offer?
I remember we started at a 10% across the board as labor collectively. And at that time, the employer had nothing to offer. Actually, at 0%. We have now come down to what we have thought it's a final offer, or a range within which we could settle was at 6.5%. Because at the time, we were looking at an inflation that was hovering between 5.9 and probably 6%. That's where we're looking at. So that's where we are. However, I must also say that we have declared a dispute of mutual interest because we now want the employer to meet all our demands. Because as you will know, something that they are not telling you when they issue their statements to try and confuse the public, that actually they've withdrawn even that very same 3% offer on the table when we met on the 3rd of October. So actually there's no offer they have. It means as Labour we are back to our original demands that we had when we started in May, which was 10%. But had they to come on the table like they were on the table, we were hovering around 6.5%, and we're going to see where we're going to meet each other halfway.
You're saying something very interesting, Mr. Shingange, because in a way then, we are reporting incorrectly if you're saying that this offer has now been withdrawn. The understanding is that this would be a collective bargaining process. In other words, these negotiations are as a collective in terms of the unions that are represented in the public service. Are you saying that that 3% withdrawal also goes for the SATU members who intimated that they actually are okay with this 3% increase?
Yes, Colin, you are reporting incorrectly, but we don't blame you because even the Minister of Finance and the Public Service and Administration, when they issued a joint statement, they didn't tell the public that actually they've withdrawn their offer. And this is a continuation of them undermining a collective bargaining. You are correct. It was supposed to be a collective agreement of all the public servants and all of the unions that they have collectively put demands to the bargaining council since we started in May. They have done something that's unprecedented to say actually there's no more an offer on the table. They are no longer prepared to give workers anything. But because we have started negotiations in May, because we were at 10%, we moved down to 7%, we moved down to 6.5%, because we have agreed with the employer that we are going to prioritize a cost of living adjustment and pack the rest of the package of the demands that we had in order for them to be dealt with in the next round of negotiations. We still think that the employer must come to the table and meet our demands. So all I'm saying is that if there's no offer on the table, it means the Labour have a right to revert back to where they started, just as the employer is reverting back to where they started. We don't know what it means about the unions that they might have indicated that the they accept it, because all we know is that improvement of conditions of service in the public service, only implementation of them only happens once an agreement enjoys the 50+1 majority that it needs, unless if they decide to unilaterally implement to either all public servants or unilaterally implement to those who have indicated that they accept. But as far as we know the rules of engagement in the bargaining council, it doesn't happen that way. Although we will not be surprised, because it will not be now the first time that they do something that is unprecedented in terms of how the collective bargaining has been conducted over these years.
Well, thank you for that breaking news around this withdrawal of the offer. But what is their reasoning for the withdrawal? Has that been explained?
Perhaps they were countering the fact that the majority of the unions in the public service, they were rejecting it. So it's their way of, it's their tactic of negotiations. I don't know. Our view is that they are preempting the conciliation, because you go to the conciliation, you allow the commissioners to conciliate the two parties that are different. To say if you have 3%, the other ones have 7%, what middle ground can we break? But because they never had any intention anyway to ever improve the conditions and the cost of living of employees, they are reneging on it because they don't want to be dragged to conciliation. So we'll take it from there. So I know in terms of the constitution of the bargaining council, because when they said something that is a final offer, it took 21 days for unions to consult, and probably after 21 days, the agreement has to be signed on, or else it falls off. Perhaps that's a clause that they are revoking. However, when you're declaring a dispute and you're supposed to go for conciliation, there must be something that you conciliate on. You can't conciliate when people have already taken off the table that which is something that you are not agreeing on. Otherwise, they are refusing to bargain. Otherwise, they are not prepared to engage or to negotiate. So that's the kind of the state we have, that they have made it clear from 2019 that they are going to have a wage freeze in the public service. They achieved it in 2020, they achieved it in 2021, they are clearly determined to achieve it even in 2022. So,
what's your next move?
Of course, we're waiting for the date from the bargaining council for the day of conciliation. We are going there. But on the other hand, we are preparing the program of action. We're going back to our members who have mandated us to go to the bargaining council and say to the employer, we're not accepting the 3%. We think you must improve your 3% to something else that we can start talk about. We're going to back to our workers and say, the employer has not only not acceded to more than 3%, but they've actually withdrawn that 3%. And then, of course, workers, they will now understand once and for all that actually they are dealing with an arrogant employer. They are dealing with a person who is not prepared to treat them as essential in the public service, but as slaves that must continue to render their service without them being paid what they deserve. And I do think that workers have been ready for this fight, and I do think the mandate will be given that we should take the state head on now on the streets.
Sure. And when might that be?
Well, I'm saying it will depend on how long does the conciliation take. We are in the hands of the coordinators of the bargaining council who are going to find a date. But ourselves, as the leaders of trade unions that have rejected this, we have given ourselves for 2 weeks to consult with our members and to prepare for the mother of all battles to defend the collective bargaining. Because clearly this thing is no longer about the rents and cents or the percentage. It's about the entire principle of collective bargaining and the rights of workers to have a right to engage with their employer. It has been eroded year in and year out, and bit by bit, it's been being taken away.
Mr. Shingange, I would be completely remiss to not bring politics into the equation here. You are COSATU's largest affiliate, Nehawu, and the events that took place at the recent COSATU Congress are something that perhaps should worry those who lead the so-called governing alliance, where an ANC official was not allowed to speak. Where does this place you politically? Because the very reason you are part of this so-called governing alliance is so that you are close to political power and you are able to influence them in a particular way so that it favors your members. At the moment, there just seem to be many unprecedented moves from the agreement that was reneged upon of 2018 to now what you are explaining, there seems to be many firsts. Is there a benefit to this?
Well, maybe let's say that first the alliance, what today you're calling it a governing alliance, it didn't start off as a governing alliance. It started off as a revolutionary alliance that fought side by side for a common interest of liberating this country, to change the lives of our people and to transform the country from what it was to a democratic society. And that struggle is still relevant, still continues. And therefore, we need to share the space and perspective on that. Yes, you're correct. That is the collective bargaining rights, the labor laws in this country that have been reversed, and the persistent pay gap that is gender-based and racially based are things that the revolution that the alliance was persecuting was supposed to resolve. And the fact that these things are continuously not being resolved, it's an indictment on the revolution itself. It's an indictment that the rights that are accrued as a result of what we call the gains of democracy, the gains of the revolution, like the rights of workers, are being eroded by the very leader of the alliance. It's a matter that we continue to engage with it, both in boardrooms, both in the streets, and as you correctly said, we even engage on the floor of Congress, because it was very important that the workers as part of the society demonstrates that which society is facing in this country, because that which you saw at the Congress, I'm sure you see it every day across society, in the streets, in communities, and so on and so on. So yes, it's unfortunate that the gains of democracy brought about by the alliance seems to be under threat. That is why the theme that was reverberating in that Congress about the NDR was that the National Democratic Revolution is facing regression. In other words, we are regressing, we are reversing the gains that we should fought for. It can't explain it any other how that we should be sitting here talking about a government that has reneged from a signed agreement, talking about a government that is withdrawing an offer, talking about a government that is giving themselves as parliamentarians 3%, but they think that frontline workers don't deserve an increase. And you don't see that as an attack on the gains of democracy. So yes, they are unfortunately part political on that thing, but of course, we are political animals who will engage with it at that political level.
Political animals, and you will engage it at that level. What does that mean, though, for the rank and file of not just Nehawu members, but all of the unions represented under the COSATU banner? Does that mean that you're going to continue being the voting fodder for the ANC? It means you're giving them yet another blank check as we go into 2024.
The rank and file of the trade union movement in this country, not just that one of COSATU, are the motive force, or they are the ones who stand to benefit when the gains of democracy are defended. And all of them, when those gains of democracy have been reversed, they've got a responsibility to stand up and defend them. Because the workers will always, and always historically is proven, that workers will always lose the gains and the rights that they do not defend. If we fold our arms now and not do anything, bit by bit, all that which we fought for, all that which is our rights are going to be reversed, and we're not going to allow that. And this time around, it's not a matter that is looked at the point of the COSATU unions only, because it is a class matter for us. Whether you are in COSATU or not, for as long as you are like a member of Nehawu or Newzroom or SPES or whatever union that relies on selling your labor in order for you to survive, this matter affects you. So at that level, we're going to unite ourselves to defend our rights. In as far as the voting process is talking about, we are going to the Central Executive Committee to interpret and engage on the resolutions and the discussions that took place in the COSATU Congress. But like I said, our alliance was never a voting alliance. When we were in alliance long before we were in government, it was not an electoral alliance. It was an alliance for the transformation agenda of this country. So the issue of voting is neither related to whether or not our gains of democracy are reversed, or we are going to continue to vote for ANC or not. That is something that is going to be engaged at a political level when we are having political discussion. You must call me one day to come and have a political discussion, not when we discuss bargaining matters and we must discuss political discussion. We are quite hip and very willing and ready to engage on an alliance politics and a broader political discussion, as it were.
Mike Shingange, thank you very much for your time, sir. He is the president of Trade Union Nehawu.